What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's REI Weekly Lesson. I'm Greg Helbeck, and today I'm going to talk about how do you keep your cool in a negotiation. I just got off the phone in a tense negotiation on a property, and I figured I'd do this lesson on the spot because this is very important if you're in the real estate business. You're going to be in a lot of negotiations. It's going to get hostile. It's going to get dicey. There's a lot of money on the line. So how do you keep your cool in a negotiation so you don't blow the deal up and sabotage yourself? So if you're not familiar with me, my name is Greg Helbeck. I've done over 300 real estate deals over the last 10 years, done this in multiple areas, and everything you're going to learn from me is real world practical advice from the streets, not regurgitated theory out of a book. So if you get value from this video or this podcast, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. And if you're listening to this on audio platform, if you can do me a favor and share the show with other people, that's how we grow this on a weekly basis. So how do you keep your cool in negotiation? Number one, this is the best lesson you need to understand when you're dealing with intense negotiation. Always be willing to walk away from the deal if it doesn't work out, right? When you're dealing with a negotiation, both parties have to agree or else nothing happens. So if you have a ready to walk mindset and you're willing and able to lose the deal, it's going to make you a better negotiator. Great book that I have been studying for the last basically 10 years is a book called Never Split the Difference. And it's a really good negotiation book. And in the book, when he's talking about hostage negotiations, the people who are dealing with hostages have to be willing to walk away. So number one, be ready and willing to walk from the deal if it doesn't make any sense. And even if you're the seller, the buyer, doesn't matter, right? I'll give you an example. Let's say you're selling a property and you're flipping the house and the buyer comes back and they have an unreasonable request and they're like, hey, we need this in order to move forward. If you're the seller and you don't want to agree to those terms, say, you know what? I totally get it. If that's what you need, I'm going to walk from this deal. And when you say that to somebody, it gets them to realize like, shit, this person's not messing around. They're serious. They're willing to walk if it doesn't work. And it allows you to be a better negotiator. So be willing to walk. That's the first thing. Second lesson, don't let your emotions overcharge your actions. When you're getting into a tense negotiation, especially when there's money involved, you have a human nature tendency of being emotional. Like you're tying the success of that deal to the income, and maybe you're tying that income to your lifestyle. But you can't let your emotions override your ability to make decisions, because if you go strictly off of emotions, you're going to make bad decisions. You're going to yell at people. You're going to blow the deal up via self-sabotage. Because once you're speaking with somebody and they can tell you're pissed off, they're going to get into fight or flight mode and they're going to hostily come back at you. So you can't get emotionally involved in negotiations, especially when it gets dicey. That's when deals blow up. The third lesson with a negotiation is you have to understand the person with the leverage will always win. The person who has more to lose than the other person in a negotiation will always be at a disadvantage. So let's say you have a situation where the seller got multiple offers on their property and you happen to make the highest offer. And now as the buyer, you're realizing that you can't pay that price you originally could pay because you did an inspection and it needs more work and whatever, and you need a lower price. Now, if that seller had multiple people make them an offer, the seller doesn't have much to lose, because if the deal doesn't work out for the seller, they're just going to call the next buyer and get the next best offer. And if you're the buyer and you really want to buy that property, you have a lot to lose, because, if you don't buy that property, then there might not be another one like that out there and you could potentially lose out on an opportunity. Now let's flip this. Let's say you're the buyer and the seller's in pre-foreclosure and they're going to lose their house to foreclosure the next day if you don't do the deal. Now in that case, the seller has a lot to lose, because if they don't take any offer the buyer makes them, they're going to get zero, right? And in that case, you could put people at a disadvantage. You got to be, ethical when you're negotiating with motivated sellers. So those are my 3 tips. I'll summarize them. Number one, have a ready to walk mindset. If you're willing to walk away from a deal, you always have a lot of power in a negotiation. Number 2, you can't be emotional when you're negotiating in a hostage situation. You got to remove your emotions, be logical, calm, cool, and collected. Number 3, the person with the most to lose has the least amount of leverage in a negotiation. It's, common sense. But those are my top 3 tips in a tense negotiation, how to be better. If you got value from this, once again, subscribe to the channel, like the video. And if you're in Reno, Nevada, or New York, the Hudson Valley, Seattle, San Diego, or Delaware, and you have a house you want to wholesale to me or wholesale with me, my email is greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. I'd love to buy your next deal or wholesale the next deal with you. Or you can DM me on Instagram @grego37, and I'll see you on the next REI Weekly Lesson. Take care.